everyone, my name is Eve and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about every book I read in the months of March and April. So normally I will do like a monthly wrap up of each month separately, but for March I don't really know what happened. I just didn't end up filming a March reading wrap up, so we're just gonna include that in this video today. And I'm very excited to talk about all these books. Hopefully I remember them well enough to give like a recap. So in total, I read 30 books in the last 2 months, which is kind of horrifying. Like, how much time do I actually have on my hands? Okay, but anyways, most of these books I absolutely loved and I'm really excited to talk about them with you today. So we're gonna start with March, of course. I had a very great reading month in March. I had a great time. So the very first thing that I read was 12, and I'll put a picture of it right here. And this is basically just a little novella to wrap up the Natural series. So I ended up finishing the entire Natural series this year. It was so amazing. I can't give very much information on what 12 is about, but the whole Natural series is just like teenagers who've been recruited into the FBI to help solve cold cases, and every teenager in this program has like this really cool special ability that is unique to them. And yeah, so this last novella just ended up wrapping everything up, showing where they were later in life. It was really amazing, and I'm pretty sure what I gave it. I gave it 5 stars. Of course I would give it 5 stars. I decided to wear makeup today, and I'm actually quite allergic to mascara. It like hurts, but I wanted to look good for the video. So as soon as this video is over, I'm hopping in the shower and taking this off. The next book that I read, actually the next 4 in this video, are going to be from a 24-hour challenge that I did this month, or in March. Gosh, I'm getting confused. Anyways, so first one being Paradise 1 by David Wellington. This is a sci-fi thriller about a group of people who are sent on this like mission to go check out this planet called Paradise 1. Paradise 1 is a planet where people usually will retire to. It's supposed to be amazing. It's called paradise, you know? So they're sent on this mission and a bunch of crazy wild things happen. This is rated R, I have to say. It has a lot of trigger warnings. Most of the time I don't say check your trigger warnings because I don't know, I just don't. But for this one I would, because let's just say there's a little bit of cannibalism. But anyways, I give this 4.5 stars. I thought this was amazing. I already have the second book to the series pre-ordered, and it is coming out in November in time for my birthday. So the next book I read for that video was Spy Family Volume 1. I have yet to continue on in the series, even though I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 3.75. It was my first ever manga, but basically this one is about this guy who is a spy, and his newest mission is to like infiltrate this school because one of the guys who's on like the board at the school needs to be taken down, something like that. And so he's told, you need to get a wife and a kid and infiltrate the school. So he finds this child who he doesn't know actually can read minds, and then he finds this wife who he doesn't know is actually an assassin. And it's really cute, really funny. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm going to be continuing the series this month, hopefully. The next one I read in my 24-hour readathon was Tithe by Holly Black. This is just a trashy good time. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I really enjoyed this one. It's about this girl who she used to live in New Jersey, and these fairies would come and speak to her and stuff like that. And then she has to move away. But later in life, maybe she's like 16 or something, she moves back and then gets thrown into this world of fairies once again, and it's just a really good time. I think it's set in like the 90s, but yeah, she smokes, she wears dark clothes, like, you know, it's a good time. I really enjoyed it. The language in this is really harsh though. I didn't enjoy that part, but I love Holly Black. What can I say? Oh, and I gave this 4 stars. So next I read The Sea, or I think it's just called, I keep looking down at my phone, by the way, if you're wondering. It's just called Sea of Tranquility. This is by Emily St. John Mandel. I'll put a picture right here, of course. And this one was like a sci-fi time travel kind of book. And normally that's something I would completely eat up. It's something I would totally love. But I didn't love this one. I couldn't quite understand what the point of the book was. And obviously I want to understand what I'm reading. I think maybe it just went over my head. But even after I read the book, I looked up what is the hidden meaning in this. Like, it still didn't click in my brain, and I don't like feeling stupid, and I gave this one 2 stars. But I did enjoy, it's like, it starts as like a compilation of some short stories, but they all tie together, and then it ends up like completely tying together in the end. And I really enjoyed the beginning of it, but then like the last 2/3 didn't really click with me. Let me go grab my drink because I'm thirsty. I'm back with my Alani, of course. Okay, so the next book I read was incredible, amazing, and of course that is Queen of Shadows. And of course I love this book. If you don't know what Throne of Glass is, it is about this girl named Selena Sardothian. She is an assassin. She is the assassin. She is known for her works. She's amazing. Best main character I have ever read in my life. I love her so much. And this just continues the story. I can't remember what happened in this one because the whole story just blends together for me, and I can't quite remember which part was in which book, but I just know this was 5 stars. So then I read 2 books in the Shatter Me series, and I don't remember what happened in these 2 books. I believe, okay, so I read Restore Me, and I gave that 4 stars, and then I read Shadow Me, which is a novella, and I gave that 4 stars as well. This whole series is just a 4-star series for me. I honestly cannot tell you what happened in these two stories, but I liked it. Juliet for me is insufferable. She's my least favorite main character I've ever read, and so basically the saving grace in these books is of course Kenji and Warner, and they are the reasons that I kept reading this series. But yeah, I enjoyed these. I liked this series. It's a 4-star series overall. So then I read a book that I really enjoyed, and it is called The Intergalactic Interloper. I have a hard time with that name. This is by De Las Heras, and I'd never heard of this story before, and I had never heard of the author either. I just saw the book at Half Price Books one day, and I thought the cover was really cute, and you'll see why. It's just kind of endearing. But this one's basically just a cute little cozy sci-fi. It's about this alien that lands on this New York City building, and then there's like 10 different point of views in the whole story. They're all just like recounting their story of seeing this alien and it's their relationships. It's so cute and so fun. It never gets too complicated, and even though you're reading from like 10 different point of views, you understand what's going on the whole time, and you remember these characters because they are memorable. I had such a fun time, and I rated this 4 stars. So next I started a new series, and that was Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. This is the first book in the Wayward Children series. This one follows this girl who basically, when she was younger, she found this door and she entered it, and it thrust her into a magical fantasy world. And in this world that she found herself in, it's like where the Lord of the Dead reigned, and so she like was ruled by him. She loved it. It was her home. And then she found another door, went through it, and found herself back into her real natural world, and she's very sad, very upset about it because it's not her home anymore. And so her parents sent her to this home for wayward children, and all these kids come from like the same experience. They found their way into a magical fantasy world and then found their way out of it, and they want to go back. And so I didn't really enjoy this one because I didn't know it was going to be so dark, because there's like murder and it's gruesome. And so I rated this 3 stars, but I still decided to continue on in the story and ended up really enjoying the second book, which I'll talk about in like a few minutes. Next, I read Killers of the Flower Moon. This is by David Grann, who has become my favorite nonfiction author. I've read 2 of his books so far. I read The Lost City of Z, and then I read this one. I actually listened to it, but this one follows the suspicious murders of the Osage tribe, which is an indigenous tribe in America. Yeah, it just follows like the murder of a ton of them and what was the cause. It was so crazy, so intricate. I could talk so much more about it, but I'm gonna keep it brief. I think this is amazing. I think everyone should read this, and I wanna watch the movie, but I know it's not as good as the book, so who knows if I will. I probably will because I've heard that the actress in it is really amazing and I am intrigued by that. But yeah, this is amazing. I couldn't rate it any lower than a 5-star. I then read another nonfiction book, and that is Move Like Water by Hannah Stowe. This is another 5 stars for me. This brought me many tears. It brought me many emotions. It made me, I don't know, it like rekindled my love for the ocean, even though it's never left me. Like my house is decorated in ocean stuff. I find my joy when I'm at the water, and I don't know, this, I guess it just rekindled my love of like oceanography and like just the study of the ocean, marine biology, stuff like that. I just really loved it. It's basically nature writing mixed with a bit of her memoir. So it's really good. I really encourage you, if you have any kind of love for the ocean, to read this. It has like these cute drawings too at the beginning of each chapter. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this one. The next book I read in March was The Housemaid's Secret, which I frequently called The Handmaid's Secret for some reason. This one, when I think back on it, I think of it as being a great story, and I was really intrigued, but it just was so slow for me, especially the first half. I thought the story was great, but it was just really slow for me, and I was not in the mood for a mystery thriller at the time, but I was trying to complete my entire TBR, which I did complete my March TBR, by the way, and I'm very happy about it. I gave this 3.5 stars. Basically, we follow this girl named Millie who is a housemaid, and she ends up cleaning for this guy, and crazy stuff happens. I'm not gonna give you any information besides that because I do think it is a great read. I think it's a great series. It is book 2, the first one being The Housemaid, but yeah, I wasn't in the mood for it. I wish I was. But next I read Following Fox by Ansley B. Calloway. These books are so underrated. This is just like a really cute romance series. The first one is Picking Peaches, I think. And then this one being Following Fox. So this one basically follows this girl who moves to this town, and her grandmother has died, so she's like taking over her cafe for her, and she's turning it into a bookstore slash cafe, which is my ultimate dream. Basically next door is this diner, and the guy who owns this diner, they were like kind of friends in high school. They were mostly like rivals, like volleyball rivals, and they love to push each other and tease each other, and they just formed the most beautiful romance ever. I really like this series because I'm not a big fan of like grumpy sunshine or like moodiness or anything. I like when they simply like each other and they are simply kind and sweet and precious. I don't like any of the angsty stuff, okay? There's no place for it. My camera's gonna die, oh my gosh. I'm gonna go charge my camera real quick. Give me like 10 minutes and I'll be back. I'm wearing a sweater because I got a bit chilly. And let's see how long my battery will last. Okay, so the next book I read in March was Binding 13. And I'm so glad I decided to start this series because it has become single-handedly my favorite romance series of all time. Probably will never get any better than this. So this is by Chloe Walsh. It follows this girl named Shannon who has a really horrible home life and school life. She's been bullied basically her entire life at school and at home. And there was something really horrible that happened at her school that was just like the last straw, and her mom was like, no, we are taking you out of the school. We are putting you into a private school, AKA Tommen College. This book series is called The Boys of Tommen. She one day is trying to get to class. I think it's her first day of school. She's trying to get to class and she's cutting across the rugby pitch to just make it faster, and she gets hit in the head by a rugby ball. The guy who kicked it was none other than Johnny Kavanagh, who is the love interest, and it just goes from there. It is so deep. It is so beautiful. Is it like the best writing ever? No. Is it very, very raunchy? Yes, but actually there's no spice in this first one. They talk gross. They talk like teenage boys, but there's no actual spice. There is in the rest of the series though. So be wary of that. But I just loved this book so much. I gave it 5 stars, of course. I then read one more book in March, and that is Down Among the Sticks and Bones. I thought this was amazing. This is book 2 in the Wayward Children series. This one follows these twins named Jack and Jill. Jacqueline and Jillian, something like that, I don't know. Anyways, it's two girls, and they find themselves in this land that there is like a vampire lord, and then one of the sisters lives with him, and then there's this like mad scientist, and the other sister lives with him. And it's so amazing. It is so emotional. I had a really amazing time reading this. I read it on a road trip in one sitting, and I thought it was great, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So those were all the books that I read in the month of March. Let's get into what I read in April. So starting it off, I read this book called let me move real quick, hang on. Called Tell Me What Really Happened. This is by, I'm not sure. I don't own the book anymore, and my picture is covered up where the author is. Anyways, so it's called Tell Me What Really Happened. I'll put a picture right here, of course. This one is told in the form of an investigation, like at the police station. So it's like the interview between everyone. And it is about this girl who let me start over. This group of teens goes on this camping trip. Someone ends up going missing, presumed dead, and it's just the investigation into that. And it started out great, but then it fell really flat in the end for me, and I just got sad, and I didn't end up loving it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I do think it's worth the read. It's a very quick read. You can read it in like a few hours, but overall, I could have done without it, you know? So then I read the last 4 books in the Shatter Me series, which is Defy Me, Reveal Me, Imagine Me, and Believe Me. 2 of those being novellas. But I thought they were great. I thought the last 4 was just really great. That being said, most people think the series should have just stopped after the 3rd book, and I agree with that to an extent. But I did love that in the last novella, it was all in Warner's point of view. We know how I feel about Warner. So I loved that last novella, and I thought it was really cute. And I think that the last book, Imagine Me, was my favorite in the entire series. I thought it was really good. I still gave it 4 stars. I gave all of them 4 stars because it's not better than 4 stars, but it's definitely not lower than that. So I really like this series. I think it's great. For some reason, the first 3 books are definitely YA, but then the last 3 books are not YA. I do not know why they are in the YA section. It's definitely adult. It has explicit scenes, and I was confused by that, to say the least. But yeah, it's just good to go into it if you have like kids and they're wanting to read it. I would recommend stopping after the 3rd book because it just becomes adult, and it was unnecessary. But yeah, then I went into book 2 in the Boys of Thomas series, which is Keeping 13. This also follows Johnny and Shannon, and this one is way more emotional, if you can believe it. It is 641 pages also, which is really long. But I gave this one 5 stars as well. The only thing I didn't like about it is there was a bit of spice in this, and again, I can do without that in every single book. I don't need that. I just don't like it. It's not for me. Especially when it's teenagers. It's strange. I don't really want to read about that for teenagers, but I don't know. I loved this book. I love this series. It has a place in my heart. Okay, so the next book I read in April was a reread. I actually spent a week where I just was mood reading for the week. I kind of abandoned my TBR a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. This is my favorite series of all time, and I didn't love it any less. I loved it even more. I love this 6-star read, in my opinion. I am halfway through A Court of Mist and Fury right now, and loving it just the same. I need to find some time to actually finish it because right now I'm making video episode 2 of finishing every series I'm in the middle of. And once I'm done with that, I think I'm gonna jump right back into A Court of Mist and Fury because I miss it. So next in that mood reading video, I read Loveology. This is by John Mark Comer. This one I thought was okay. This is a book about marriage and love and relationships for Christians. So yeah, but I think this would be great if you are a brand new Christian and you're not married yet. This is definitely not a book written for married people. So yeah, and it's just like a bunch of stuff that I kind of already knew and figured out on my own and in relationship with others and stuff. So I don't think it was needed in my life. And it took me like 6 months to read. So yeah, I give it 3 stars. But I think if you are a new believer and you want to figure out like what our stance on marriages and relationships and whatnot, I think this would be good. So next I continued in The Boys of Tommen and I read Saving Six. This is about Shannon from the first book, her brother Joey, and his lady, Aoife, who I love. Aoife is my favorite girl in the series so far. She is awesome. I love her. This one is rough, and not in a bad way. It's rough in being in that it deals with addiction, and it's a hard read because it's just so terrible, and you know it is realistic and it happens in real life, and it's just really hard to read. And yeah, where this ended off, I thought it had a great ending, and I'm really excited to get into the next one, which is Redeeming Six, I'm pretty sure. Yes, and that is on my May TBR. But yeah, this one was really hard to read. It is a toxic relationship, I will say, but you still root for them. You just know that they need to work some stuff out, but in the end, you want them to be together, if that makes sense. But yeah, very amazing. 5 stars, of course. I then read the next book in the Throne of Glass series, and that is Empire of Storms, Sarah J. Maas, of course. This one, I have not seen good reviews about this one, except for one guy I saw. He said this was like worth the whole series, and I agree with him. This is 5 stars. I thought this one so far, I was like, oh my gosh. I don't know if I would say it was my favorite one in the series, but I would say it's probably the best one in the series. It was written so well. Everything that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And all the characters were amazing. One character wasn't in it, and his book is the next one, Tower of Dawn, which you're supposed to do like a tandem read, and I don't want to do that, so I didn't. But yeah, I loved this one. I cried, I laughed. I love this series. I cannot wait to do a reread of this whole series. The next one I read, another 5 star. I had a lot of 5 stars last month, and that is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This book I read so fast. It is about this girl who would love to become a singer. It is her greatest passion in life. She goes to this audition, and it's like American Idol, and she actually does not make it for some reason. And there's this guy named Corey Fields, and he's like this big singer slash producer slash most famous guy ever. He is 28 years old, and he's like, girl, you are talented, and I want to give you like private singing lessons. And so that starts, and you find out from the back of the book in the very beginning that Corey Fields ends up dead, and she doesn't know how this happened. And so you're going from like present day when she's finding out Corey Fields is dead to the past, and it's just talking about like their relationship. It's incredibly disturbing. He is grooming her. There's like this whole page at the beginning of the book that says the trigger warnings, and I do think that you should know the trigger warnings before you go into this. I'm gonna try to put it right here and let you like read that if you're interested in this book. But yeah, it is incredibly devastating and hard to read, but it is written so well. And like the main point of this book is how people need to listen to Black women when they speak up. When something happens to them, they need to be believed. And oh my gosh, it was so good, so amazing. And my camera is going to die yet again because I didn't let it charge enough. So I'm gonna go charge it, and I'll be right back. All right, folks, let's finish up this little video, shall we? I have 3 more books to talk about. First one being Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Let me pull up my rating. So here's what I thought about this one. I had a great time, and I'm 100% going to be continuing in this series, but I think I'm just going to listen to it and not buy the physical copy because I don't like the font. It was too, I don't know, like, I don't know, not enough dialogue, too much of her thinking. So it's not fun to read, but I had a really great time listening to it. And I gave it 3.75 stars. The reason I didn't give it any higher rating was because I am not much for cozy fantasy. So I just wasn't invested as much. I thought it was really great though. I thought it was really cute. I love the, what's his name? I loved Bamblebee. I thought he was really great. A lot of people think that his like personality is kind of jarring, but I actually really enjoyed it for some reason. But yeah, I thought it was cute. I thought it was wholesome. I will be continuing. The next one I read was another little cute fantasy, and that is A Fragile Enchantment. This one is very much Bridgerton vibes, but better because there's like pretty much no spice. There was this one really weird scene that did not need to be included. But besides that, there was no spice. And it's fantasy, and they have really cool powers. Like the main girl, she comes from like this land that is just kind of impoverished because of the king. He made some choices that were not great, and so this land is not doing well. They had this thing called the Blight, which made magic kind of dim, and yeah, they're just not doing great. And there's this guy, he's the Prince Regent, I think is what they call him. Basically the king is too sickly to actually do his kingly duties. So there's this prince who is in his place, and he invites our main girl named Neve to be the dressmaker and the suit maker for his brother, Prince Kit, his wedding. I hope that made sense. But anyways, she ends up kind of falling for the prince, who she's supposed to be making his outfits for this upcoming wedding. And yeah, but her whole magic thing is that she can sew like emotions and feelings into her garments that she makes, and it's really cool. And his magic, that's Prince Kit. Let me show you the cover. Anyways, so his magic is that he can make like plants grow and do crazy stuff with plants. It reminds me of, I don't know if you guys have seen Sky High, but one of the characters, she can like, her magic is plants, and it's really cool. But anyways, I loved this. I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was really fun. Even, like I said, it was like Bridgerton because of like the stuff that was going on in here. It just seemed like it was like the same time era. And then there was someone in this named Lovelace, I think. And they were basically like Lady Whistledown. So it was like an anonymous gossip section in the newspaper. And then the last book I read in the month of April was an absolute banger. And that is Little White Lies by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I have never heard, I saw one review of this book in my entire life, and they were like, it's okay. But to me, I read this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like classic Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It was so good, so well done, well written. So, I don't know, like the whole time you're reading it, you're like, wow, this is what I wanted from her, you know? It is so good. It follows this girl named Sawyer who grew up in this like small town with just her mom. Her mom is kind of flaky. She'll like find a new guy every few months and like go off on some escapade with him. So this girl, Sawyer, she likes to get dirty. She likes to work on cars, stuff like that. And her grandma comes to visit her, and it just so happens to be right when her mom is like, hey, I met this new guy. I'm gonna be gone for like a month. And so her grandma comes and visits her. She's never met her grandma or any of her family, mind you. And her grandma's like, hey, if you come live with me and become a part of like these debutantes and go to this debutante ball and everything, I will pay for your college. I will give you $500,000. And she's like, oh, okay. My mom isn't coming home for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I'm gonna take you up on this offer. And so, also, the main reason she's taking her grandma up on this offer is because her grandma's like, I bet you want to know who your father is and I can help you figure it out. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's super exciting. It is a mystery. You're going back and forth between like timelines. You spend only a little bit of time in the future where you find out that like Sawyer and these other Debs are in jail for something. It's very interesting. It's so good. I rated this 4.5 stars. I think this was amazing. I am currently reading the second one, Deadly Little Scandals, and oh my gosh, so good. This is amazing. If you've never thought about reading this, you should read this. And that's it. Those are the 30 books that I've read in the past 2 months. I had an amazing time reading these books, and I'm excited for the future to see what books we read. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.